Hello everyone, welcome back. Once again, I am on a quest to get this Material Design 5.0 stuff in and going. I was out of town this weekend with no internet access up at a resort area on a retreat with my wife. It was glorious. There was no internet connection. Had an awesome time. Sometimes it's good to not have internet. Sometimes. Though it left my brain thinking about a code. Hey, Darkham, welcome. So, tonight, for anybody who missed it, we'll just dive right into stuff. So, tonight's brain teaser, if anybody wants to see it. So, image was up earlier. There's a link if anybody wants to play. This is one where anyone can clone this code and run it and come up with the right answer. Right? The key question here is, what is the value of count? So after all of this happens, what's the value of count? That's the simple question. Again, you can obviously run it, set a breakpoint, look at what it is, and figure it out. But the goal is to be able to understand the code by looking at it. Sometimes it's nice to try to think through and see how well you can reason. So the solution's easy to come by, but try to do it mentally. I encourage it. One other thing. I am speaking again. So I am doing a lunch and learn. A couple months ago, I had mentioned that my company was doing a .NET conference. It was a half-day thing. One of the talks was this one on Maui. So for anybody who isn't native to the area, would like to do it, it's lunchtime for me. Your time zone may vary. So lunchtime at noon Pacific, and then you'll have to translate that into whatever. Yeah, so 12 to 1 Pacific Daylight Time, April 11th. So translate that into whatever time zone you're in. That's what time it is. But if you are interested, this isn't going to be a lot of depth into Maui. It's going to be more of breadth of what's there, what's possible, what can you do, should you be building on it, all those wonderful things. I know people see me doing XAML and they immediately ask the question, do you do more Maui content? And I'm like, I don't do a ton of Maui content. It's like, well, this will be a dive into it and take a look at what's there. Somewhat. This was initially done somewhat so that I could be up to snuff on everything that was there. So, online only, free event. You just got to register. You'll get the link. It'll be a Teams call. It's a little more informal than this setup. And yeah, all are welcome. Okay, one other thing. While I'm teasing out brain teasers. This is some days I shouldn't be allowed to write code. This is like, I came up with this solution and I really don't think I should be allowed to know how to do stuff like this. This is one of those things where I struggle to imagine, like, I've seen some valid use cases for being able to do this crap. But I'll let the code speak for itself. For any chess fans out there, you'll get the reference. These tests pass. Avalonia docs. Sweet. I will check those out. Put those on the side real quick. But I wrote these unit tests. Again, they pass. They pass rather effectively, I will point out. You'll note that Speedy is so fast, it executes in less than a millisecond on my machine. That should concern a great number of you, because that shouldn't do this. And you'll note I've got a little solution thing suppressed underneath a region tag down here. So, yeah, this is exciting. Async void local functions, async void local functions. I'm still trying to figure out, like, when I do these brain teasers, I try to figure out a reasonable way to get it down to a nice, simple example. It actually takes a little bit of effort to try to distill sometimes a complicated concept down into a few number of lines. So, yeah, there's that. And Darkham, of course, you can always ask a question. Is there a way to have a responsive grid? I assume that was meant to be Bootstrap on WPF. yes, and at the same time, sort of, and kind of no. So I shall explain. Where's just the main page, or home will work too. So what, and I'm going to be grasping a little bit at, so I am not great with the Bootstrap grid system. So if I recall correctly, it's largely horizontal. You have grid sizes. To some degree, the built-in Bootstrap, the grid system behaves a little bit like Bootstrap in its star sizing pattern. So your column definitions, when you do a column definition, you have a width, and this width property can contain one of three values. It can be a fixed number, which isn't great for sizing and scale, but you know, sometimes a fixed number is fine. You can do star sizing, and this is a little more akin to it ish. And then you can do auto, which is be as small as possible, but scale down to my content. So as the content grows, auto goes up and down. Now, the thing with Bootstrap, though, is you can do these kind of like jagged grid setups, and WPF really doesn't, there's not an equivalent for that. Now, you can kind of get away with it by making extra columns and then setting like your column span and that kind of thing. So you can kind of cheat a little bit that way, but it's kind of annoying. They automatically go into the next row. Yeah. So the other thing that exists in WPF, and this is a less common one, is there is a wrap panel. Now the thing is, a wrap panel isn't a grid, but it gives, so that behavior like you're describing with Bootstrap, where if you get too much, it goes down onto the next row. The wrap panel gives you exactly that behavior, but it does it more akin to how like the, if you do a stack panel with an orientation horizontal, right? So stack panel orientation horizontal goes and stacks out, but it still shrinks the content. But controls don't resize, right? Correct. That is one of the awkward bits of it. Is there's not, what is the term that they use for it on other systems? Reactive grid, I think, is one that I've seen used in other places, where you get kind of that style of behavior. And oftentimes what I've done in some cases, because most of the time when I want something like that, I'm not looking for a generic solution. What I'm looking for is something that's somewhat specific to what I'm building myself. So if you can reasonably size the contents on their own, a wrap panel works great. But that assumes that you can size the contents. Like, you know, maybe I'm displaying a photo app or something, and based upon the item itself, I can appropriately pick a reasonable size for it. That's an option, not a great option. I've also used fun value converters to do like measurements, because oftentimes you want to take in and say, okay, I want a wrap panel, but I want items to have like a maximum size of like 25% of the wrap panel's width, and that's not always a trivial thing to start calculating, right? To figure out where that's going to go, because then as the wrap panel gets smaller, you almost want those breakpoints where, okay, if it's less than 600 wide, I want to say, okay, my items are now 25%. But if I've got, 1200, I want the items to only be, 10%, so I can fit more, or whatever the break panel is. So there is not necessarily anything reasonably built in. So you can't quite match Bootstrap, I think, is the short version. There's some things you can do, but oftentimes you end up writing it yourself. So Maui, sort of, let's see, Maui layout controls. So they have, and to some degree, Maui is largely driven by the mobile platforms and what they support. Not completely, right? Because Maui tries to be an abstraction on top of it. But oftentimes, because their target audience is mobile developers, they often build out experiences that are similar to what a mobile developer on iOS or Android might be familiar with, because they're trying to make that transition as smooth as possible. They do have more layouts available. So even like their stack layout is different than what's on WPF, because their stack layout has options for, do they show it in here? For like start and expand, where you can, do they not show it in here? Stack layout, horizontal options, layout center. Because you can't have things grow in size. Yeah, so you can do this kind of stuff inside of their stack layout, which is something that doesn't work. Yeah, so start, center, and fill. So their stuff, they add a lot more. So Maui does, to some degree, handle this. So stack layout is stack panel plus some extra goodies. Absolute layout isn't anything fancy. It's basically the canvas from WPF. As the name implies, it's absolute. But with that said, that's not 100% accurate. It's basically the canvas, but it does still have some, so one, like you can set your layout bounds to just fixed values. But there is some similar thing to how this, yeah, proportional and positional sizing. So even though it's an absolute layout, they do have some proportional bits in there. So the name is a little misleading at that point, but you can kind of start to get similar to how the WPF grid has the star sizing. You can actually use an absolute layout to kind of mimic that if you know, hey, I only want 3 things, right? I want 33%, 66%, etc. The one that's probably the most, and grid. The flex layout is the one that gets the most interesting, and this is where you can start matching some of the bootstrap stuff a little bit better, because you do have the wrap content, you do have the justify content and the alignment and the grow ability. I think that's one of the big difference between the Maui layout controls and the WPF ones, is they have this concept of like left justify but grow to fill, which is something that has never existed on the WPF side of things, but is definitely there. I don't know iOS as well, but definitely on Android. So with the flex layout, you can start to get something much more akin to what you're describing with the bootstrap grid and do some fancy stuff with that. So to answer your question, they have, I don't know if I want to say solved, but they have significantly more options for doing what you're describing. So for your use case, probably solved. I'm a little hesitant to say that it can match everything, but it gets darn close. It gets really close. I'm trying to think of how I would end up setting this up. Yeah, one of the other things that they actually add in, even on their grid layout, which I kind of wish existed in WPF, is they've got this idea of spacing between columns. The number of times in a WPF grid I've wished to be able to set like column spacing or row spacing between things. Like these little things, it's the WPF grid plus a little bit. Yeah, built into WPF, there's not going to be anything out of the box that gets you that same behavior. You're going to end up having to write a little bit. I actually had a colleague a couple weeks ago lament to me that there wasn't built-in layout controls, and to some degree, there's not a lot of people actually building layout controls for WPF, which is a little surprising. Most of the time when people build custom layout controls, they're building them for a specific use case. Like the most common one I see pop up all the time is people wanting like a carousel control, like what you see on photo apps. You know, you flick through the picture type things. I see that a lot. The material design library kind of has something like that with the transitioner control. It's kind of a layout control, but not like it's meant more for more of a like a wizard style thing. So it's not quite the same. Yeah, it's not really around positioning stuff, but it is it's less of a UI thing and more of a way to lay out your controls on a page type situation. So yes, in regard to Maui, they have made significant leaps and bounds forward with a heavy influence from mobile platforms on what should be available, because in a lot of cases that's their target audience. Is they're wanting everybody to build on Maui. Yeah. Though to some degree, I think if WPF were rewritten today, I don't know if the fixed size would necessarily be there. For example, WinUI 3. So with WinUI, they did start to add more layout style responsive controls to kind of handle those cases. And even though things kind of don't resize a ton, I mean, one of the more common ones with like Windows is, oh, I'm going to dock here, right? I've got the hot corners, or I'm going to dock to my edges, or those types of things. So even though the app may not resize much itself, there is still some concept of wanting to have it a little bit. Because they've added in like this relative panel, which is something. Relative panel was the spiritual successor to the Maui Flex layout, because Xamarin Forms also used to have a relative layout, but it got dropped in Maui because Flex layout just kind of ingested all of the stuff that you could do with a relative layout. Flex layout took over, so it kind of just died. Or like this variable size wrap grid. I think your question earlier about doing that wrap panel in WPF and having the wrapping, this sort of behavior here, like I think if WPF were rewritten today, this is what it like, which to some degree that's what WinUI 3 is WPF v next, probably. Again, I'm hesitant to say that it is the thing that's going to replace WPF, because I've heard that line before. I don't get excited until I see it happen. Yeah, so I think more modern-y style frameworks have kind of adopted the idea that sort of layout pattern is a necessity. And it might be a fun exercise to go through and like rebuild this in WPF. It's probably not that terrible to do, because you can write your own layout controls. I mean, you end up having to do all your measuring and layout yourself, which is kind of yucky, but once it's working, it's working. So, might be a fun example. Okay. One other thing. Yeah, the only drawback with some of the WinUI stuff is not all of it is written in managed code. So you can poach a bunch of it, but some of it, it's not always a straight copy paste, because sometimes the language may be different. Yeah, some of it, and that's part of what, like, WPF has some performance problems that people will always cite, and most of them come with there's this higher level abstraction over DirectX, which does the rendering, which is it is a fair critique. If all you're wanting to do is just, bit blitz stuff out, WPF is not as fast as other UI rendering things. It wasn't designed for that, though. It was built for businessy style applications. Not saying you can't build other stuff in it, because it totally works, but that was kind of the use case. And for WinUI, they wanted to go close to the metal and go fast. really fast. Like nobody was going to argue that, oh, this doesn't have high performance stuff. So, and that's they've been working on rewriting various Windows apps into it, just to make sure that things are useful. Like I'm trying to remember, I believe File Explorer is one of the next ones on the chopping block to be rewritten in it. And to some degree, that's what I like to see, is Microsoft dogfooding their own stuff, because then their own developers will start to experience the pain and stuff gets fixed. That's what I like to see. I did want to call out one more thing. So I have my .NET templates, and there was a bug. Did I fix it? Oh, I didn't. So I thought I fixed this, but apparently I didn't. So we might go fix this real quick. So in my WPF templates, there is an issue, and I apologize because I didn't realize I had done it. But when you set, where is it? In the props file, I think. Nope, not there. Must be in the CS proj. Yeah, this guy here. So it's kind of a simple bug, but this publish single file, this will break your debugging experience. You will lose access to the built-in Visual Studio debugging tools. Snoop won't work. And it's a known issue with the single file host that just hasn't been addressed. So, yeah. So if you use my template and if you uncomment this block, be aware this one will break your debugging experience. My personal solution is a condition on debug for this, and don't set that always, but let's see. For example, what I just read is that they built thousands of UI frames for the new Teams UI, then used Flutter. Yeah, so Microsoft Teams is one of the applications that I love to hate on. It's not great. It is not great at all. Why did you fail? Oh, do we have flaky tests again? I don't want to go chase flaky tests. That wasn't on my agenda tonight, but stop it. I wish there was a way to say only show me failed. I don't care about all the tests that pass. I care about the one that didn't. Where's the one that didn't? Where's the one that didn't? One of you is causing me grief, and I don't know which one of you it is. Six out of six, 6 out of 6, 6 out of 6. Okay, where is it? Failed. Show it to me. Failed. Timeout. Drawer host open and close raises events. I have a sinking suspicion I know the cause of this bug, and I'm going to be really unhappy if I'm right. Be really unhappy if I'm right. Give me my screenshots. Let's see. What did you do? So, open left drawer is sitting right there and didn't do a darn thing. So that's the state of the app when it failed. Come on. And you failed on what line? Drawer host tests 5885. So let's go look at that. Oh, stop it. Stop it. Now, do what I meant. I need ChatGPT for web browsers. I wanted to do what I mean, not what I actually type. Okay, WPF, drawer host test, 58. So it expected to Let's see. Just to confirm, 5885. 58. So, okay, so recorder success. So the 58 is the actual failure line. So it attempted to left click, waited for the opacity, and the click must not have registered. And this is clicking on the drawer host. And waiting for opacity to go to 0, which is interesting to me because the screenshot appears to show drawer closed, opacity went to 0. So what? See what happened. Get property opacity. 6 seconds, 7 seconds, 8 seconds, and then it failed out. Interesting. I wonder why. I wonder what the opacity was that it. I hope this isn't one of those cases with a double floating point precision biting me. I do wonder if it is floating point precision biting me. Like it's a very small number. That'd be really, really, really unfortunate. Because all of these things trigger just fine. So I'm not going to stress about it. I am going to come up here and I'm going to rerun failed jobs and call it a day. Okay. Back to where I was actually wanting to focus before I got... Okay. So, theming stuff. We're generating theme code. Lots of theme generation. Code is happy. Yada, yada, yada. Okay. Now, I am not naive enough to think that everything is working flawlessly, mostly because I fire up the demo app and immediately notice it no working. So that's not exactly a ringing endorsement. Yeah, so you'll note there's plenty of things that aren't working right. For example, the background color is just straight up wrong. Now, I'd like to go through and start putting in samples and examples of this stuff to make sure it all works. But I want to start here because I think the solution here is this, right? If I put in the obsolete brushes, hopefully this should just demonstrate that everything is fine and it's working flawlessly. Clearly that's not the case. Okay, so good buddy old Snoop, come here. Boom, let's go with Spelunking. Why is everything black and bad and my world unhappy? You cannot just be now that I see the demo, is the true that material does not have a custom title bar? If you're talking about this top part of the window, you would be correct. However, if you want that, slight tangent. There is, so I've contemplated ways of doing it. Doing a custom window Chrome, which is what you're looking for, is not trivial. There's a lot that goes into doing it right. But if you want it, you can use Ma Apps, and they have a custom window where you can completely redo this whole title bar. Effectively, how it ends up working is you tell Windows, don't render your normal Windows Chrome. I'm going to do it myself, and then you take responsibility for implementing the title bar. But there's like, to implement a title bar that works properly, you have to do some work. But Ma Apps has done that. They even have this nice border. They've got a glow brush. You can do all kinds of stuff. They've left lots of things. So rather than providing it, what we've done is we've just implemented a shim library so that Material Design and XAML and Ma Apps play together nicely. So that's the compromise. Is no, it's not built into this library, but it's built into Ma Apps, and we've tried to make working with Ma Apps easy. So that hopefully then people can get this. Clearly, my background brush is just straight up foobarred, so that's exciting. But yes, if you would like one of those title bars, it is my recommendation is to just use Ma Apps for it. You can roll one yourself. That is an option. It is not the option I would recommend. Oh, I did not have much Mountain Dew today. Tastes so glorious. Mwah. Okay, sorry. I am what some people would call hopelessly addicted to Mountain Dew. Okay, I have a sinking suspicion this is all the way up at my main window. And okay, so Material Design paper is just straight up black. Really? Really? That resource is 100% black. Interesting. And light and dark aren't working. Okay, so something is not quite, something is not on point for what I would expect. So I am looking here underneath those people who, so in Snoop, you can do underneath your app, you can grab your app level resources, and you can pay attention to did your own implementation use weak reference messenger to pass minimize, maximize, and close button clicks to the app? Yeah, so you certainly can do it. I would let's see. Let's see. I believe their stuff is, so I'm guessing you've done the custom window Chrome bits. I usually go, there's one app I work on during my day job where we actually ended up doing the same thing. The reasons we did it are dumb, but we did do it. That's not it. Where is their, I want their Ma window. Is it here? Or Metro window. That's what I want. Yeah, Metro window and Metro window helper have, I believe, most of the stuff if anybody wanted to roll their own. And again, this is just because they tried to make a generic window that could be customized by people, so the customizations that are available are the ones that they expose. But if you really want to roll your own and go to town, you can. This is a pretty good sample of more or less doing it right. And you can completely, like, if you want to, you can drop the Metro window template and use the control, but then retemplate it and build out whatever you want. Because they have things for like flyouts, flyout modal, and this is actually something that came up on one of the old discussions on the repo recently, is dealing with the dialog host from the view model. Dialog host has been a bit of a plague because of its static methods for showing, and then the need to track like the identifier. I was contemplating going through and putting together an example of options, but I realized that all of the options that I would put together are working around the issue of the fact that the primary API for accessing it is static methods. So the 5.0 release may do some API changes to it. I've been trying to decide what's the correct way to do it. Because the hard part is, imagine you've got two instances of your main window. Like, it's not overly common that people do this, but think of something like the calculator app, for example, right? If you, from the view model, want to pop a dialog, you generally want that dialog to pop in the context of your view model. But how that all gets wired together, it's a little funky. So I was trying to, like, there's ways around it, but I think at the end of the day, really what people want is an easy view model way to say, hey, show this dialog, get the result from the dialog, right? The Windows Forms message box API gets used way too much in WPF applications, only because it is dirt simple to use. It's static, it is ugly, it is modal, it is blocking, but it is so dirt simple that people use it all the time, and I wish they'd stop. But I was trying to think about, and to some degree, Dialog Host was modeled on it, but it uses async rather than blocking, and so it gets, it's like, ugh. And even when I took over the library, it was one of the problem areas that the original author even commented on, of saying, hey, you know, this is an API that I keep seeing people have troubles with. It's like, oh, yep, completely agree. Okay, so don't care about this one, don't care about this one, don't care about this one, don't care about this one. So this is the one that's doing it. Oh, interesting. So the issue here is, if I look here, make you big. This guy's using material design paper. And I would have expected in the obsolete brushes, material design paper to be handled. Get rid of the word background on it. So it's resolving incorrectly. Let's go look at the obsolete brushes. That's likely the problem. Obsolete brushes. Okay, so material design paper, brush. So brush background is what it should be mapping to. Let's go here. Material design, brush, background. So in this one's clearly been flipped to light theme. Now we're in dark theme. So in theory, if I reload this guy. Interesting. Okay, so where are... Let's see. Material design, brush. Oh, I wish this thing would let me search for resources. Yeah. Tree. No, you're not going to help me. Might have to go submit a PR for that. I'd really like to be able to search resources by typing right here. But the period messes it up. Which is very disappointing. Okay, we won't get hung up on that. But you here are even on refresh. All right, we'll check it again and make sure. So you're dark now. If I go light. So one, it's not updating properly. And it's going pure white and pure dark. So there's two problems. One, the built-in brush color appears to be wrong. So we'll need to go change that. And then the obsolete brush isn't properly updating. Oh. Yeah. It should all be dynamic. Did I not implement that one? Apparently I may have only done one of them. Okay. Oh, hush now. Go away. I'm trying to remember the limitation with this. There was a limitation. I don't remember. Let's do this, though, because I believe this works. And then move you to your own file, pretty please. And now I think my generator gens obsolete brushes, but let me double check that. Gen obsolete brush dictionary. It does. And so I want to come in here and I want to tell you that I would like you to generate this to be dynamic. And then set you as my startup, gen brushes. This is why we do code generation. Right here. Because with a flick, boom. These ones also probably need to be changed, but we're gonna come back to that. Okay, ignore the squiggles for the moment because it's only unhappy. The designer works on compiled code. The problem is latest C# stuff has gotten us all in the mindset of we expect it to the editor tools to work on the code as we type. Let's see. Invalid resource reference exception for property foreground. It's not a valid value for foreground. So why are you now dying out on me? Set property. Line 101. Okay. Let's go look at line 101. 10. I'm thinking that's wrong. Microsoft, I'm not a brilliant person, but I'm going to go with there's no bloody way that's right. Position 29. I mean, it is the main window.xaml, but it's squawking about the foreground. Framework element style. Is there a style setter there? It must be this guy that it's unhappy with. Let's go here. Text element foreground. It must be that guy that it's unhappy with. Why did we leave an obsolete thing in here? We should be killing obsolete things. Kill it. Framework type, ancestor type, element. I mean, let's just confirm that this is in fact our problem. I suspect the problem's a little more systemic and it must be related to how we're assigning things. Oh, wow. The designer kicked into gear. What is your problem? Yeah, I get it. You're unhappy. Deal with it. Deal with it. Style line 104. you've shifted. So it's this foreground binding that it's really unhappy with. Why? Ancestor type, framework element. I mean, we could do stack panel. Does that shift it? I'm confused why it's. Oh, because it's now a. Right, because there's underline. Ha 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 ha. Okay, so that's why we didn't do that. Okay, got it. Okay, so the issue being that the dynamic one doesn't work the way I would like. Okay, so let's go. We'll go back here for the moment. Undo that. Stop executing. We've got the issue of the obsolete brushes not properly being updated. I think we can work around that. Let's, for the moment, ignore that and focus on why we're getting the wrong values. So the background brush, let's go and look at my theme colors. Brush background. So this is being set at, I mean, that's why it's doing it, but it's almost assuredly wrong, going all the way off versus all the way on. Especially for the background. Why did I do that? So it's short version, it's doing what I told it to do. I just told it to do the wrong thing, apparently. Let's go and look at what it is over here on master, perhaps. All right, one moment. I think the neighbor's dog just let out a very sad sounding howl. I think that's what that was. Okay. I want to look at what we were doing for the color themes previously, because we had, oh, that's right, the colors for the themes are up here, which is weird, because there's themes and there's dark and light. So on the dark one here, so paper is what was being done before, and I have switched it to be background. So that's the difference, is before it was paper, which was 30, 30, 30, and now we're going here. So let's go back. The issue is possibly, yeah, so the problem is we mapped paper and background into the same obsolete brush, which is not correct. So on dark, we really want paper to be obsoleted into something different. What was background being put into? And then let's see, what was card background? Why did all of those get put into the same? These should not have been all bundled here, and more importantly for dark themes should not have been there. So the appropriate color is going to be in here. Let's see. So for the dark theme, somewhere between 30 and 42 is what we're looking for. That's... Oh, wait, what the heck did I do? Why did I gen these on transparency keys? Yeah, these are transparencies. These are not. So we're looking for like neutral 100 is what I want this to actually be. Yeah, why did I map those together like that? Okay, so paper should be mapping to this. Okay, so this might just be an issue of the moron who did these didn't know what he was doing. Okay, so let's start with this. We're gonna copy paste. So for the dark theme, we want it in the neutral 100. That's pretty close to where it was. It was at 30. We're gonna bump it to 32. Probably not gonna even be noticeable. So neutral 100 for the dark theme. Let's see, neutral 100, and then let's go and look at light theme. What was paper? FA. So FA, we go with neutral. Surprised I didn't do a neutral 1000, but I guess that's actually white 1000. So it doesn't really matter. Yeah, so we'll go there. Sorry, just doing some math in my head. Yeah, I think that's where we're going to go. Okay, so that handles, that's what paper should be. Now the question is card and background. Do those go together or do those go separate? Background and card background can probably stay together. Can I have you both open? There. Yeah, that's what I want. Card background and background and dark theme are both very different. Interesting. Okay, so we might want to split those in terms of what they map to. So let's see. So paper is going, this is going to be paper. You guys are going to go away. There's going to be this. Okay. So now we have the fun case of dealing with splitting this up, because where did material design background actually get used? I don't, this is one of those cases where I don't even know the use cases for this. So doesn't count, doesn't count, doesn't count, doesn't count. Group boxes. Wait, this is the demo, so that doesn't count either. Let's see. Themes doesn't count, doesn't count. UWP themes doesn't count. So it's used, and that's a demo app. So it's a completely unused brush. Got it. So we could map it anywhere. Where does it make sense to map it to? Where does it make sense to map it to? Background is just out there for dark, but it aligns with, so we're going to keep it with card, I guess. It's really not going to matter because we're going to do this, bring this up here, and not have an alternate key. Okay, so we're going to do that. We're going to do that. And let's see. Brush. See, I was trying to organize these a little bit. Foreground, validation, button, card would go here. Okay, so same deal. Same dealio. Let's see. Dark theme was on 42. So dark theme, blue neutral 200. And then light theme was all the way on. So that's, I think, white 1000. Yeah. Okay, so resource gen me a new set of brushes, please. Okay, so that's all genned. Let's go and see what it looks like. Okay, so I think that was just bad mapping of the colors. Unless I'm stupid, that looks the same. Which is not what was supposed to happen. Background. Shows on card background. Well, that didn't map to the right place. Let's see. Oh, this thing still had the alternate key in here. We don't want the alternate key there. Yeah, that's the problem. Let's see. Resource gen me the brush again. Thanks. Demo, go. And I think in terms of doing this, I don't think I'm gonna ever. I think the more I thought about it, I'm gonna not necessarily auto gen or run this auto gen of the brushes. I think what I'm gonna do instead is just detect changes on the pipelines and flag them. So if somebody makes a change and doesn't rerun it, I'm just gonna write a test to flag it and call it a day. That'll prevent the bugs from creeping in. And okay, so it is mapped to paper. And paper should be mapped to material design background. And background should be... Background is getting all the way black. That shouldn't be the case. Should be getting neutral 100. So let's go take a little look. Let's see. Black 1000. Doesn't seem right. There's that. It's the only use case of it. So how are you ending up with black 1000 when I've explicitly turned you off? Yeah, so that's not right. Let's see. Built-in dictionaries. You're the one who does the light and the dark, right? Let's just grab it here, I guess. Stop. Something is not genning the way I expect. So let's just take a look here. White, black. So the parsing of the brushes? Did it not copy the file or something? Dang it. Nabbit. Dang nabbit. I wonder how many bugs have bit me by that not being copied out properly. Thought I had this thing set up to copy all JSON files. None include copy to output directory. Star.json. This should be copying out Why are you not getting the right file? Okay, so we're just gonna grab it here. Theme colors.json. I mean, it's possible I'm an idiot. That's always a possibility. Okay, now it's got the right ones. Okay. I'm still very surprised that I needed to do this. Oh, I'm an idiot. I don't think I need those to actually be there, but I do need this to be an update, not an include. And I think then, if we check the properties, copy if newer. That's the bug. So the reason for the subtlety here between the update and the include is what the SDK does by default. The SDK by default will already add .json files as none, so they've already been included. The problem is we don't want to include them. They're already there. We want to actually update them to have this copied output directory set to preserve newest. Okay. Now if we check here. Okay, that's looking better. Okay, so back to demo, back to Go. Not the language, the little green play button, which we'll call it Go. Hey, there we are. Okay, muchos better. Muchos better. This is nicer. Okay. Checking theming stuff. Oh, I commented out that line. That's why I didn't close that for me. Bum. Here. Demo. Nope, that's expected. This is the line I want to get rid of. Discard. You're the only change there. Good. Okay. Rerun that. Because I'm really hoping the fact that I've built this little generator for all the theme stuff will save me a lot of pain and suffering in the future. Okay, so there's that. Those look to be correct, but these are primary colors. Not overly shocking. Okay, so the next bit to change is this, right? Is I toggle from light to dark. And actually, real quick, let's just make sure light theme looks appropriate when it's not being toggled. So rather than doing inherit, we can do base theme light, and that'll force it there. And this should launch in light theme just fine. Looks pretty good to me. Light, mid, dark. Something's off in this coloring scheme. Specifically the fact that, I don't know about you, but light seems darker than mid. So there may be an issue there that needs to be addressed. Let's take a quick look at that. Just make sure that I didn't typo a brush or copy and paste some. That's the thing with this theming stuff. The nice part, like the bugs may be a lot, but at the end of the day, they're usually, you squash a couple of them. Okay, secondary hue, mid brush. That makes sense. Let's look at this one. Go up to the button. Secondary hue, light brush. Let's go and look. This is lime. This is going to be in the colors. colors, themes. Lime. I mean, that's pretty cut and dry. So I guess then the question is, where does this guy go, right? Because he comes in here. Swatch helper, look up. Lime swatch. Let's see, that's all fine there. Goes to create a theme. Wait, what? Secondary color is lime. Key value. Wait, I'm confused. How did it get from... Where's the lookup into the lookup dictionary? Select many, lookup to dictionary, key value. I wrote this and I'm confused as to how it works. It's probably not a good sign. Ah. Okay, there's that. Accent 1, 2, 3. Okay. Lime secondary. A700. Okay. Like I'm with you there. So there's the mapping. But where so that's the so it should be landing on something that looks like that for the secondary colors. And if we go and look what actually got registered, so we expand these out, come over here. Oh, we've got a conflict, don't we? Go here, make you big, because I'm seeing that I've got both dictionaries defined, which is probably, yeah, so that one's correct. But the one up here is probably wrong. Yeah, so that one's wrong. So it's not the one in the XAML dictionary. It's the generated one in here, which we create the theme, which is fine. Bundled theme, we create the theme, we call apply theme, which does set theme, which does this, which comes in here. And this is where things are getting awkward. Let's relaunch and check this guy. Color adjust is null. So light E4 FF54. Where did that go? Don't care. Don't care, don't care. Don't care. Kind of care, because the fact that I've got both of these defined is problematic. But if we go here, And where's my call stack? Take me back. Take me back. E4 FF54. None of those. Where the heck did it get that color from? Where is this? Where's this color code at? It's nowhere. I'm sorry. Where the heck did you come from then? Huh? Let's catch it here. I'm very confused with how we're getting theme. Let's see. Secondary mid. Oh, we don't have a good. Hang on. We got to go fix this. This is one of the things that I've been trying to be better about. Color pair. So we have this guy here, and unfortunately, pain to debug. So we can create a better display. The debugger display attribute. You feed it. Let's see. Color. Foreground color. And really, foreground color should be contrasting color, but it's intentionally worded as foreground because it's either going to be a white or a black. Okay. Now we should be able to look at this thing a little easier. Okay. And step and theme. And now when we look at this guy, yeah, this makes a little more sense to look at. So there's our light color. So it got it straight out of the swatch lookup. Let's back up and go in here, shall we? Interesting. So it took the accent color, lightened it, but lightening it actually made it darker. That is an interesting problem. Okay, so that's I am willing to bet that is a problem that exists on master today, and I'm not going to stress about it. Or I'm not going to stress about it right now. That feels like something that once again we solve with code generation, because the looking up of light and darker from that enum feels like something we should just auto-gen the code for and call it a day, because the two options should be equivalent. Okay, so that's, I think we were coming in here. I want to look at group boxes. Looks relatively correct. Okay, so now the issue is on the toggles, because these come in here. These apply the change, but the change isn't being propagated out because the obsolete brushes aren't being overwritten. So what we would like to do is we would like to be somewhat intelligent. And what I think I want to do is come in here and say these APIs, because did we kill palette helper yet? I think we did. No, we didn't. This guy needs to be renamed. This guy is going to need to be renamed. But at the end of the day, this guy is just calling set theme. So everything really flows through these two set theme, get theme methods. And I think what we're going to do here, there's two ways we could go about doing this. Option one, there's a flag in here that indicates if this thing should go set the obsolete brushes. And we could kind of cheat a little bit by having this thing go looking specifically for that obsolete brushes dictionary. Option two, well, I'm trying to decide. So, because one of the things we could do, if this guy needs to know about the presence of the obsolete brushes, what he can do is he can just take this resource dictionary and go looking for some well-known Boolean that's, you know, auto update obsolete brushes. Because the obsolete brushes is just that generated resource dictionary. Where is it? This guy. The other thing we could do is we could give this guy a code behind and a little behavior. Is that better or worse? I think that's worse. I think that's worse. So, and here's the rationale, is I think it's better if we... I think it is better to regen this, because what we can easily do is, I don't know, sys boolean, right? So boolean x key apply obsolete brushes true, and it should probably be something like material design obsolete brushes, or contains obsolete brushes, or something to that effect, right? If that Boolean is present and found and set to true, this guy can then go through and apply the appropriate, he can do the needful, right? Because we've got these theme colors here. There's no, and we're already auto-generating this thing as well. So let's look at that, right? Let's see, this ends up being XML NS, system gets CLR namespace system, and then this becomes system colon, right? So we'll have this guy here, and then we will do it's really only on the apply that we care about it. So if resource dictionary there's not a try get, is there? There's just a straight up find name. So I want to test it both ways, because I think what you do is this, is bool has obsolete brushes, And so it has to be a bool, has to be present, has to be true in order for us to do this. And then, you know, we do the needful. Let's just test this really quick, because this should proc. And then I'm wondering if, well, we kind of need, yeah, we need this. So let's do there. And if I go here, and I toggle, you didn't proc. And it didn't proc because it's down lower. I guess we should look and see what we actually come in on. Because this came from, what's my resource dictionary? This is here, modify theme. This is going to be palette helper, which palette helper is just going to grab get resource dictionary. So it goes hunting for either the top level resource dictionary or the theme one. Call stack. Jumps in here. This resource dictionary is the theme one. Which I guess I shouldn't be surprised. I shouldn't be surprised. So what is this actually returning? Am I getting anything? Is it a cast problem? So it's a null issue. Because this guy contains it. Is this the best solution? Because the alternative could be that the obsolete brushes is a actual strongly typed dictionary, similar to the bundled theme dictionary. You'll note this derives from resource dictionary. There's no reason the advantage would be that if we went that route, we could do we could have it do something like this. But the issue is because we're in a resource dictionary, because we've got this catch-22 where so I mean, I guess there is another option. We could make this slightly more obnoxious for people. And by that, what I mean is we could take this and propagate it out, right? So rather than having this be something buried in the library, which admittedly is horribly convenient. Cut that. Don't just delete it. If what we did is instead we moved it to here, right? So rather than living here, it goes here. Then I think this works. Then I think we actually get inside of this. No. Am I just using the wrong method? Should it really be find? I mean, well, let's test this. if it's supposed to be, well, you go away for a second. You go away for a second. I'm wondering if the find name, are you supposed to be find name? Is the indexer not expected to recurse? Is that the difference? Do you have any useful docs? So short version, this one's probably not going to do what I want. Right. What is the appropriate way to make you do a lookup and recurse? I would have expected get value. Get value without lock. One way or another, we get into here. It recurses through the merge dictionaries. Does this not go up? Is that the problem? Is it starting down at the theme dictionary and not going across? Because this ends up base dictionary on getting value private. Okay. Interesting. So because this is too high up, interesting. So there's not a clean way of going up, which I guess makes sense. Resource dictionaries don't know about their parents. They just know about their items and their children through the merge dictionary property. And because we are effectively acting on this dictionary, we're never going to find it. Which makes some sense. So I'm wondering if it makes better sense to go after the theme manager. So these ones here really shouldn't be at play. So I'm wondering if maybe these obsolete ones really should be a typed dictionary. Because if they were a typed dictionary like this, on creation, it could just go looking for a theme manager and register up for theme changes. That might be reasonable. Because what is theme manager going to do? It is possible to get back a null if there is no theme manager registered. But there will be a theme manager the moment this guy gets called. This guy only gets called from the code behind ones, though. But if you're going to be... I'm just worried that if the theme manager doesn't exist until you change it, if that's going to end up biting me. Yeah, because this guy goes hunting for a theme manager. If he doesn't find one, he creates a new one, shoves it in, and away we go. But I'd really love for the obsolete one to be... I want as little of the obsolete stuff to trickle into the main code as possible. So how do we make this play nice here? Because if we're acting on the other dictionary and we want to know if this guy is present... It'd be really nice if we could just do dynamic resource lookup. How do you end up doing it? Resource reference expression. Because I'm wondering if there's an easy way to go about this to come at it from the top. Because even though this doesn't have it, yeah, because I'd really like the presence of the flag to be in the obsolete dictionary itself, rather than otherwise. Because this uses theme manager key, which is consistent. I wonder if... Let's go back over here. Burn you down because you aren't going to work. For obvious reasons. You're not going to play nice with the other children. I get it. I get it. Could that thing leverage a brush to do its work? Could it know? Because things outside are able to walk up to this one and find it because they are looking through the resource dictionaries, walking up. But they're able to do that because they have a tree to look at. Without a visual tree, I can't really walk the resource dictionaries. Is there another way around it? I mean, there's always a static instance option, but I just hate statics with a passion. I almost wonder if I should be pulling the theme manager out into its own markup extension. Because this guy, I feel like I should be able to resolve this from inside of here without having to do something like application current. It just... what else do you have available to me? Deferrable content. What does extract double do? Yuck. Yuck, 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 yuck. Hey, Darkham, I appreciate the sub again. Interesting. I do not know what that deferrable content property does or how to use it. F1. Go find me the thing. Come on, Visual Studio. Show it to me. No? You're not going to be that useful? Okay. Resource Dictionary. F1. Show me the... Yeah. Avalonia Flex Panel. Ah, so somebody actually built one out. Yeah, and you know, this is not too unlike what I would expect to have to do if you wanted to build one inside a WPF. Like, obviously, a few of these things are not the WPF stuff, like this UV size. But there's nothing in here that's vastly different than what I would expect from WPF code that would be doing the same thing. What is line count? Ah. Yeah, I mean, this doesn't look terribly off base. Like, some of these methods are huge. And I get it. Like, you kind of have to. And I really abhor not having braces on if statements like this. That makes me twitch. A lot, but this isn't bad. Let's see here. Oh, nice. The screencast. Oh, cool. Yeah, that's kind of nice. And again, I suspect if you wanted this inside a WPF, you could probably get it. There's a lot of neat stuff in here. I have to hold on to this. This type of a built-in bits. Oh, this is WPF. Oh, interesting. Cool. Oh yeah, look at that. Clever. Clever, 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 clever. Line space, justify content space around, flex wraps, no directions. Nice. Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna hold on to this. Thank you. There's actually quite a few controls here. Like some of these duplicate some of the stuff that's already in the material design stuff, like this this badge control. We've got something similar. But yeah, so they do their, and I am always curious how people do things like drawers, because it is not always a trivial thing to do. Notification window. Nice. And a glow window, gravatar. Yeah, this glow window, this immediately reminds me of the Ma app style things. But yeah, because people have built various versions of these same things. Nice. Yeah, I'm gonna hold on to this. This looks like a very nice library. If nothing else, something to take some inspiration from. I have to look. Show empty. Oh, interesting. I was like, what is an empty control? Okay. I have built this kind of logic many times over. Yeah, no, that looks kind of cool. Yeah, like I said, I'm always curious how other people have ended up doing things. And actually, hang on, before I get too carried away off of this, they have a theme thing in here. While I'm contemplating how to do theming, where did it go? I just saw it because it was in their sample. Where, yeah, because they show theme resource HC theme. Where's theme? I want to look at that thing. At the top. Tools, extensions, where you can change it. Theme. That's what I want to look at. How did they do it? Let's take some inspiration. Themes namespace. System theme changed. Yeah. That's actually something I've been meaning to implement, is watching for the theme change to come through, but okay. Get system theme. We've got all that. But how do you do requested theme accent color? See, this is what makes me twitch, is that's a theme manager current is going to end up being a static. Ugh. That's exactly what the Control-ZX library did too, and static makes glue, and it means the moment you dump that into your view model or similar, you've got a problem. And yes, you can hide statics behind an interface. That works. It's just you're now causing people to do extra work when they really shouldn't need to. And I'm assuming these things here are just assigning some brushes inside of here. Specifically like this region brush. Using system theme. I'm watching it toggle. Which is great. Like this is one of the things that I haven't actually implemented yet, is like I've handled light and dark theme, but noted like they have the color theme from Windows floating through. Explain why static is glue. Yeah, so there's a general concept in it's not solid design principles, where you want your code to have, sorry, one second. The browser has decided that it wants to be grouping all my tabs. You want your code to have high cohesion and low coupling. And coupling often occurs when you, or I should say it manifests, when you end up making a change in one area of your code and it propagates out into areas that you would have thought would have been unrelated, right? So ideally, if you're working on a feature, like I'm working on maybe buttons inside the material design thing, if I end up editing something related to text boxes, it means I've now got this linkage between my button and my text box code, and I really shouldn't have that. Those things should be distinct areas. And this is a subjective criteria, right? There's no, like, it's an easy sentence for me to say. In real life, lines aren't always clean cut, right? There are times you're writing classes that have cross-cutting concerns and that kind of thing. So judgment call in everything, but in general, you want to make sure that your code isn't tightly coupled together. Static methods tend to be a really problematic area. So things like a static theme manager tend to be problematic. So imagine you have two areas of code, potentially view models, and you're trying to write tests over them, and both view models use the same static member. So let's say that they're both going after that theme manager current dot background or whatever it might be. If one view model is setting that property and one view model is reading that property, your tests can no longer run in parallel. Because if the behavior of that property, because by definition static is one, you get one of those things. And I'm ignoring things like local static or like thread locals and that kind of thing. Ignore that for the moment. You get one. If thread A modifies the property and thread B reads it, that's going to give one behavior. But if thread B reads it first and then thread A modifies it, you now get very different behavior. So you start getting that coupling area. And not all static methods are bad, right? Static methods that are pure, that is, they don't modify state, are actually perfectly fine. We use them all the time. Link is a beautiful example, right? It's very common to do something, this dot or whatever, resource dictionary dot where or whatever as parallel, where similar. Like all of these are static methods, right? So these are fine, but they aren't mutating some state. They're returning something back. Yeah, so practically speaking, when a WPF app runs, you probably don't have nor don't want more than one theme manager. The one area where that has repeatedly bitten me by making assumptions about that is WPF is not often the running application. So for example, some people use it to build like an extension to Visual Studio, which is great. Build extensions, have fun. So assuming that you have something like application.current and that's going to always return you a value is not a valid assumption. There's, what is it? I'm trying to remember. There's a popular library that is used, I think it's a CAD program, that I've had several bugs flow through the repository from. Same situation. It has an extension model where people can use WPF to build extensions for it, and people often run into the problem of trying to figure out how do they load these external DLLs in an extension model, because you can't just reference them because you don't own the application. Yeah, and so in general, a static theme manager is usually fine for a running application. It falls apart if you want to do multiple things. It also kind of falls apart if it's a static instance that's able to be accessed from multiple threads. Now, in a running application, usually, which is why I store mine in the resource dictionary. So like this theme manager, this guy gets stuffed right into the resource dictionary, which effectively gives me a static, because you probably aren't going to have this resource dictionary multiple places, but it also gives me the flexibility to have more than one or plug in something different. Yeah, so functionally it's not likely to bite you in a lot of cases. But it's one of those, I get twitchy when I see static members that mutate data. It makes me get real twitchy real fast. Like I said, application current is another great example where it's very easy to go after your resource dictionaries, but I try to significantly limit the calls to this because this is nullable. It's not guaranteed to be set. And it's also only settable once per app domain, which is really obnoxious. There are a handful of times where I've also seen people run multiple UI threads in their WPF applications. It's really rare. Like, most people don't even realize you can have multiple UI threads. It's kind of an unusual use case, but in those situations, I could easily see wanting multiple theme manager instances, specifically just across those threading boundaries. Anyway, all of this to come back to the idea of the obsolete brushes. Is there something else I was going to say there? I feel like there was something else I was going to say. Mountain Dew while I try to remember what it was. Oh, that's the other thing that also gets fun. There's a... To go along with the idea of static methods, constructors are also static. And people oftentimes don't think about that. But when you do, new theme manager, right? This is a static call. It's one of those, conceptually it makes sense, but it's a static call that returns back an instance. That's what a constructor does. Functionally, it's a static thing that under the hoods, it allocates the memory, and then the constructor method that we write in C# is effectively an initializer that after the runtime has allocated the memory and created the instance, it calls that initializer method and then hands back the instance to us. Like that's under the hood what's actually happening, but it's a static call. This is also where things like dependency injection start to get kind of hairy, because now if you want to create something that has multiple dependencies, how do you deal with it? Right? There is... trying to decide if I show this or not. Okay, I'm going to show this, but I'm going to premise it with great power comes great responsibility. Okay. So I wrote a library, and I'm only halfway proud of this. 1, I am proud because it works. 2, I am sad because I had to write it. So there is this idea that occasionally you want to do unit testing and you want to test and have a static member behave. For example, datetime.now, right? If you were to test a method that called datetime.now, the problem is because the return from that is non-deterministic, you have no way of controlling it. And so people will hide datetime.now behind an interface or whatever if they want to make it deterministic. What I did instead is I wrote a library that lets you do this kind of garbage. You'll note this test doesn't assert equals on datetime.now. And it asserts that datetime.now returns, April 20th, 1987. Not my birthday, if anyone's wondering. So this is and people have written various other forms of this in different libraries, but it effectively is a static mocking library. Now, I named it intentionally of... sometimes you have to test code that smells. And the smell in this case is lots of static coupling. And sometimes people have just built libraries that have lots of static coupling. I was looking at a WPF app recently where the login logic stores the results of the login inside of a static member so that they can access it from all over the application. Right? I need the user to log in. I need to store their tokens or whatever after the login. And because I'm going to need that in all kinds of disparate areas where I'm going to be making calls, I'll just shove it in a static and link it everywhere. Yeah, yuck. And they also have no tests. So the static coupling problem isn't a big issue if you never write tests. But if you never write tests, you have a different problem. So it does circle back around to that. Like, to some degree, we write code in very particular ways because we want it to be testable. And you can easily dodge the problem by just not writing tests. Now, that isn't to say that's a good idea, but it does dodge a lot of the design patterns that we implement to make things testable. If you don't write tests, you don't care how testable your code is. Again, you have different problems. Not testing usually, you can get away with it when the application is small enough that manual testing is easily doable, but that doesn't scale well. As things get bigger, levels of automated testing should be increasing, not decreasing. So also as a side note, this library is built on Harmony, and Harmony does have a known limitation at the moment where it does not support Net 7. Specifically in Net 7, they did this tiered compilation improvement. There is a branch on Harmony that has the fix. However, that has not merged yet because it contains a whole bunch of other changes. And it's going to be big and breaking to them and whatnot. But just be aware, if you run under Net 7, Noseplug will not play nice. And it won't play nice because the underlying library Harmony that I'm using to monkey patch these methods doesn't work. And Harmony also has some other limitations that are worth knowing about. Things like method inlining, if you're using this library, is a concept you want to familiarize yourself with. How do you cope with the fact that usually tests are seen as a waste of time by managers, especially when you work for a company that is not a software house? And even in a software house where there is a budget, tests seem like waste. That is a great question. That comes up quite a bit. So the company I work for puts a very high emphasis on testing because we've seen it pay dividends. I will say, oftentimes when people put a low priority on testing, I will say low quality tests are absolutely a waste of time and cost way too much. I've seen companies where because tests are seen as like second class code, it's like, well, we don't need to apply the same coding standards to our tests. We'll let the intern write them or whatever it is, right? The line that I usually will tell them is your code will drift to the quality of your tests. So if you have low quality tests, the code quality in your main repo is going to slowly drift towards that same quality bar. So my argument is tests should be held at least as high to a quality bar as the code they're testing, if not higher. And oftentimes people freak out about that. To set tests up like that does require more initial investment. So to set, and that goes for more than just tests. To set up code and to do well-structured projects and whatnot takes more effort initially. But the dividends that get paid are immense. The app that I've been working on in my day job, there's areas of the app that have great code coverage. I shouldn't say 10% or less uncovered. I'll word it that way. Some people will say 90% covered. It's like, I hate covered. It's 10% uncovered. 10% uncovered or less. And those areas of the app have far fewer bugs, require much less manual testing for the managers to have confidence in shipping versus the other areas. And it doesn't take very long where you start having to do manual regression tests, and usually the people who have been most resistant to testing, once they start seeing the dividends, because at the end of the day, you're going to test your product. You're going to test it either early in the process with like unit tests, or maybe a little later with like integration tests, functional tests, or a little later with manual tests, or all the way at the other end where the users are testing it when you ship. Somewhere in that point, someone's testing. It's just you end up getting to the point like user testing when the app ships is probably not who you want doing your testing. Users are horrible testers. They don't report the bugs very well. You get bad reports. You lose trust and stability. Like, things can go poorly. Now, in some cases, people have a forced user base, right? You're building an internal application for the company and all the employees are forced to use it. In some cases, I've seen people conveniently make the argument that, well, quality doesn't matter because it's not like we're not a consumer application. The consumers don't have a choice. They're forced to use it. Okay, like that is an option. I think it's a poor option, but yeah. Freelancer, and you have to say argument that the price of your job is almost double because the test is difficult then to fight against other freelancers. The or fight, compete, yeah. Yeah, no problem. I try to read between the lines on what the question is intended for. The interesting part though is, as I have gotten better at writing tests, I don't feel like they double the time to shipping. It is true that ideally I end up writing close to twice as much code, right? Because you've got the test code and the main code. But what I find is code creation is usually not the lion's share of the work. A good portion of the job is reading code, debugging code, and unit tests cut down on that portion of the job, right? If I could write code once and then just ship it and not ever have to go back and like debug or refactor or rework, then yeah, tests would almost double it. But because code it's rarely ever written once and is done and out the door, is there's so much time that is spent often debugging and working with it and refactoring it. And that's the portion of the work that the tests start to save you time. So yes, it does increase the amount of time spent creating code. That's a given, because you write twice as many lines. Though in the case of Copilot writes the tests and I just sit there and shake my head and go, thank you. But at the point where I start refactoring code or making changes, if I have well-written tests, it makes those refactors go so much quicker. And I'm able to easily pivot, and because one of the things you can almost guarantee with business people is they're going to change their mind every time. There is no business requirement that is set in stone ever. They will change their mind always. And so code always has to pivot to account for changing requirements that come in. And because there's all that refactoring changing, that's the bit where tests come into play. So if I was just writing some code, throwing it over the fence, and somebody else was going to have to maintain it, there might be an argument that writing tests adds too much time to make it worth it. But if I have to maintain it at all, I'm probably going to want those tests. Just with all of the changes that have gone in here. And even on like this material design library, that's part of why I've started building out my UI tests, because there's been a number of situations where changes come in and they prevent bugs from going out the door that I would have had to have spent time catching, because it takes more time to write the tests, yes, but they end up saving time in that's one less issue that gets reported on my repo that I have to then read, evaluate, potentially fix or make a change for. And so if the tests can cut down on that time, the 30 extra minutes that I spent writing the test potentially saves me 30 minutes or more of incoming bug reports that I then have to triage and deal with. So I think that would be the key point I would focus on if somebody's arguing that tests take too much time to write. They double your they double your code creation time. It's like, yeah, that's sure, but code creation time is only maybe 25% of the job. There's the other 75-80% that I spend more time reading and debugging code. Even on the material design stuff tonight, I would argue I've spent only a small portion actually writing new code and a sizable portion of time debugging. And I think that's very reflective of a normal day-to-day job. Or at least it's reflective of my normal day-to-day job. Your mileage may vary. And now I think I've completely forgotten where I was at here. So the issue being that I was hoping to resolve was when the theme changes, making sure that the obsolete brushes also update as well. And we could work around the issue by having the obsolete brushes have a code behind and rely on the theme manager, but we can't rely on the theme manager being present. We could change that. We could change that. That would make for some interesting... That would make for some very interesting bits, because I am contemplating. So for example, let's start here. So one, we've got this theme, this iTheme manager here, right? And I'm wondering if this guy should have, if there should be potentially a theme manager class that gets exposed and leveraged outside of here for the purpose of people being able to pull it. Because the palette helper class is a great example, right? This guy here is like, he is effectively a... Why is he not static? Why is he not static? He probably should be static, because there's no reason... Oh, the only reason he's not static is because these things are virtual. It's kind of yucky. Because functionally under the hood, he's going to application.current and he's going hunting for it. And this will absolutely fail if somebody tries to use these APIs in, like, say, a Visual Studio extension where there will not be a current application. But in those cases, this is just this convenient helper is just going against the resource dictionary. And then the actual meat and potatoes is down here in the set theme or get theme methods that are just extension methods on a resource dictionary, which, okay, great. If you don't have application.current, don't use that API. Just go straight to the set theme and call it on whatever your top level resource dictionary is. If that's a window.resources or a user control.resources, whatever your top level element is, figure it out and call this method. But I am wondering if it is worth trying to put together some level of singleton to know about those changes. It makes some sense to have it. Because if we did that, well, okay, so options. One, we could make the theme manager usable as the trigger, and we could have the obsolete brushes dictionary watch for theme changes and update itself when it sees the theme changes. Option two, this guy could go hunting for that resource dictionary and apply it themselves. Palette helper could do it as well. Palette helper could also do it because it knows when set theme is being called, and it's capable of hunting for alternate resource dictionaries. Like in this case, it's hunting for the theme dictionaries, but it could just as easily go and hunt out that obsolete dictionary as well and trigger it. That would mean that in the extension case, people would have to edit it themselves. And it would only be for the obsolete brushes. So as an alternate, maybe that's actually not that bad if the obsolete brushes don't update. Or if when they update, you have to make an additional call. Because the goal is to give people a nice shim, but at the end of the day, I really want people to update. I just want it to be on their terms. So maybe there should just be another extension method that's set obsolete brushes. This guy could also just straight do it as well, but I kind of prefer to go after the obsolete resource dictionary. I kind of prefer to go against the obsolete resource dictionary. So I think that's what we do. I think that's what we do. Is we go. I think that's the cleanest approach. Because the failure case is going to be people with old obsolete brushes that haven't been updated. I think I like that. I think I like that a lot. So do I have, yes. Boom, still in my thing. So I think we put this guy back here. And we plug him in. And then we do something like private static resource dictionary find obsolete obsolete brushes resource dictionary. And we'll do application.current.resources. Merge dictionaries. First or default, where X. We want that same if condition here. Because it effectively just wants to hunt down and find the obsolete dictionary bits. And then I want something like this that does the set. So I want to do something like public static void set obsolete brushes. There. I think that's what I want. Because now I can come in here and I can effectively generate, so I don't need this. This is going away. This goes away. Because most people probably won't need this. Like, I really do question how many people are going to need the obsolete brush case. So I probably shouldn't spend a ton of time on it. But that is then going to be this. Let's see. Get my big head out of the way. Is bool has obsolete brushes and has obsolete brushes. So that goes hunting. So then in the set theme case, if is that is not what I wanted, Copilot. Thank you, but no, go away. Set obsolete brushes theme. And actually, I guess we don't need to do this if check. We can null propagate this guy. We can just do that. Little question mark saves us a whole if condition. Because that seems reasonable, is it will go hunting out the obsolete brushes, finds them, looks them up. Okay. And then we effectively want to recreate this. This is what we would like to create. Why is there no new line here? We should fix that in the generation. So that's going to be here. That's going to be here. No, here, here, here. I really need to clean up the name of this. Let's see. Create obsolete brushes dictionary. Huh. I must have added that new line. Obsolete keys, template. Insert here. Oh, that's right. It's this. So this guy here. Where's my regex? It's because I've got a multi-line. And I don't probably want to pick that up. Whatever. New line isn't worth fighting over the regex for. But I am going to want to generate out this extension method. Do I generate the whole thing? This if check is pointless. Yeah, this doesn't make any sense anymore because we flattened all that in. That only made sense when there was an interface, and now we've killed that. So this is all just wasted bits. Do that. Don't even think we don't even need this overload anymore. Which means this goes away. That's even cleaner. Okay, cool. I like deleting code. Deleting code is happy. Okay, I think I can almost... I want this check. There should be another null check here as well. That's a thing. Because I don't want to assume nullable reference types are enabled by the caller. And then I think a bunch of these are just going to be the set solid color brush. I think this entire thing is going to be this. So I think what we do is we do this, we do this, we do this, and we go apply obsolete brushes. And then this goes here. This goes here. And then I need to look at what we genned that from. Not you. You. Because these guys here are going to be these resource keys. So we're going to need to replace each of these with a new instance. And actually, I think we can just iterate and recreate them all. We don't even need source generation. So we may not even need this. So for each var key in keys, right? So we'll do this. Formatting, use explicit type. So you are a key. So everything in a resource dictionary has to have a key. If resource dictionary sub key is solid color brush, no, static resource extension, static resource. Let's see, we want to fully qualify this one here. Then we want to do a new but we want to do resource key. Okay, fine. But I know you're not nullable. So we iterate through, we find the ones where they're one of our existing ones. We create a new one. Create a new one of these guys. We'll use target type new on this guy. How about new resource? Like that. And then the only reason we do that is so that we can do new resource dot freeze, which is why we have to create a new one rather than wait, I can't freeze you? Oh, I can't freeze the result of you. That's fine. We'll just go back to inlining it. But this should then just work. Let's see if it does. We've got some set themes that it's unhappy about. This doesn't need that. Okay. This really needs to be theme color adjustment gets color adjustment. We need to apply that in. Otherwise, it no worky. Building, 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 building. Okay. I want to see light and dark theme just work. Cannot find resource named primary 500. So call stack. We have to be hitting here, I believe. No. Why? What has changed that would cause that to occur? So if we go back to palette helper, this is the key thing that's different. So let's drop that for the moment. Because if we... Okay, so Resource names are case sensitive. Show call stack. How the heck did we get here? Wow. So out in the middle of La La Land. So something I changed is causing. I should have done a commit earlier. Now I'm paying the penalty for not saving my state. Let's see here. So that should be fine. Oh, we don't want this change. That could have been doing it because it uses the presence of that. Well, but we got rid of the call that was doing it, so that's probably not the full story. That view model isn't it. Yeah, color pair, we just did that. That was just a naming change. This is generated code. Which I'm okay with. This is the obsolete brushes. But it's specifically squawking about primary 500. How many cases of this exist? I don't think we have that many. So wrong project. Wrong name. Or wrong name. These are all the named brushes. Collapse that. So this is the obsolete brush dictionary. So this guy here is looking for a primary 500. That is not going to exist. That is not going to exist in all cases, is it? Because I think we've reached the portion of the night where I question how it was working at all. There's always the stages of debugging without these resource dictionaries in play. I don't understand how... And these dictionaries were after it. Yeah, so that's... Okay. Let's now test the... Let's go back to what I actually wanted to test. Yeah, so this should now work. We still have a setup problem where I can't run without it with only including the one, but the nice part is my UI test will flag that. So if I go here, I toggle to dark, didn't do it. Just see if we're actually hitting our breakpoint. Okay, so that's... The first key missed. So what is this thing? Is this a... What's actually coming back from here? Oh, so this is actually the brush. Got it. So this is actually going to be the brush. We could drop it, reapply it too. We could drop and reapply the entire resource dictionary. Is that too aggressive? I don't think it's any worse than. I think it's any worse than replacing all the items in it. I don't think it's any worse than that. So let's test the theory real quick. So this is iterating through. Again, obviously not a great one to do. Merge dictionaries.count I++. And there's a reason I'm doing this with a for loop rather than a for each or anything fancy. Is I want to do this. So I want this condition. If paste dictionary. Okay, so now I've got the tired of typing this bit the whole time. This will probably go into a method at some point, but we're just gonna rock and roll like this. So root dot merge dictionaries, move at I insert new resource dictionary. And then this guy is going to get the source that is equal to dictionary source. Because then rather than like regenerating the assignment of all the items in the dictionary, which we could do, like that's an option. I'm just wondering if throwing away the whole dictionary and adding a new instance forces reevaluation. That seems a heck of a lot easier. And actually then I don't need to do this contains obsolete brushes. I think what I do then is I rename this. Recreate on theme change. We do one of these maneuvers because now it doesn't need to be tied to obsolete brushes. Any resource dictionary that wants to be recreated on a theme change can do it. I like this better. I like this a lot better. Yeah. So we're going to do this maneuver. Take you. How about private void recreate theme dictionaries. removes and re-adds resource dictionaries with static resources that will be re-evaluated with new theme brushes. This is here for the obsolete theme brushes. But now it leaves an injection point that if somebody else wanted to use this, set the Boolean. And it's no longer specific to just me. I like that much better. That makes me feel much better about the solution. Okay, so that goes like that. That goes like that. This goes here. Did I already rename it here? I did. Let's just reload, make sure it still works, but it should. And then, boop, boop, boop. Booyah! Booyah, booyah, booyah. Okay, so let's get this committed. Getting theme changing working properly. Need to handle the various setup cases. Okay, so I think we are getting very close on getting this merged. I really want to get it in. I'm hoping to work on it more this weekend. But I'm also doing some IT help for a funeral that's occurring. So we'll see how much of my time that sucks away. But I like this much better. Palette Helper will probably die or at least be renamed. And I want to remember why I needed to make these things virtual, because at one point in time, I believe these were all statics. And I don't remember. Any ETA on v5? Good question. I am hoping not that far away. At least in terms of, I want the betas to start rolling out soonish. I have not quite merged it in. Oh, I missed this one. Sorry, Nikolai, I need to go back and look at this. I forgot to come back to this one. There is a 4.9 milestone that's sitting out there that is kind of a, it's a placeholder. I haven't decided if 4.9 is actually going to release or if 5.0 merges into it and goes. Oh, this is a good one to know about. People often ask me for it. It does look like they may have taken a little inspiration from my project. Doesn't, I mean, it looks nice though. So let's go and let's just take a little look. How close to mine did they mimic? Yeah, they may have taken inspiration. It's hard to say. Yeah, people have asked for a material, a port of my library to Avalonia, but Oh, you are full of very useful links tonight. I'm gonna save this one because this. I mean, I am a lot less likely to port to Avalonia with this thing in existence, especially one that's actively being maintained. Yeah, this is there's hints of something that indicates that they may have taken inspiration at least. I mean, it's an open source project. You should openly take inspiration from other people, but like I'm noticing some particular naming schemes that just overlap. The last commit 3.0 major update. Yeah. Yeah, this is yeah, I would suspect they took inspiration from my library, but I like there's a lot of hints that this may have been that they may have started from mine and then just went crazy, right? Like there's things that are similar and things that are very, very different. Oh. Well, there's a direct link back to the repo, so so yeah, they took a ton of inspiration. Oh yeah. Okay. You guys get a star. You guys get a star. uh, that is awesome. I approve. Again, it's open source. You should take inspiration, modify, tweak. Plenty of people have asked for a port here. I obviously haven't done it. Have at it. Have at it. I approve. I might have to go. I might have to go play with this and see if I can be of any use to them at all. Because yeah, I think at minimum my README is going to get a link to this because this is something that gets asked for a lot, and I feel like, let's see here. I bet you if I just do a search for Avalonia on mine, I bet you this doesn't come back empty. We have any open issues? I typo it. Really? No. No hits. That can't be right. There's got to be. Wait, that's the wrong. Yeah, I was gonna say I know I've seen issues and requests and things for it. GitHub, I am not trusting your search. Let's go back here and I'm gonna do it. Let's do it from here. No issues, huh? Interesting. Nothing here as well. Wow, that is surprising. That is very, very surprising. So, well, but regardless, I think they've earned a star. For anybody who hasn't seen it, go check out that repo. It's worth it. Give them a star, give them a thumbs up. They look to be doing good stuff. and I'm gonna give them a link in my repo back because they deserve it. I'm curious how they do. How do they do their icons? Sorry, I gotta look now because mine I'm auto pulling from. I'm auto pulling on a nightly release, but yeah, see they've got they've got my old stuff. I'm sorry guys, but you want to change. And it looks like they've already started to migrate into newer stuff too. Yeah. Don't blame you. Don't blame you at all. Do they have a pack icon? They don't. So how do they do icons? Oh yeah. Interesting they had to break the ripple out to its own thing. The ripple is usually one of my go-to ones to start with because it is so difficult and it's a core component of so many things. They had a wiki. Did they have anything about icons? Progress bar, custom, theming, brush names, transition assist. The README mentioned icons, but I'm wondering if they just draw it, if that's just an artifact. Yeah, because it just says icon pack support installed separately. Material icons repository. Ah, got it. So they've moved that out. Publish. Update icons workflow. Okay, got it. So they've done something magical in here, which looks to be, is this a cake script thing or a nuke thing? Interesting. Okay. Well, I won't get too carried away in it. It looks like they've yeah, so they went all kind of excitement mode. Okay, but it's still functionally the same thing it looks like. Yeah, with the aliases and whatnot. Okay. Cool. Cool. Yeah, definitely worthwhile to check out. Okay, with that, I think I'm probably going to sign off for the night. My stuff's committed. Yes, committed, pushed. Excellent. Darkom, thank you for all of the links and information tonight. It was very helpful. Always appreciate it, and thank you for the sub again. As always for everyone. Oh. Hang on, I forgot my brain teaser. I forgot my brain teaser. I got all distracted. So there was this monstrosity that I did that no one should be forced to deal with. Stash. Let's go here. So enumerable counts, for those people who are interested, it is here's the there's the link if anybody wants. So the question on this one, and we'll go back to Visual Studio. Reload. They distract you from street. Oh, no problem. I enjoy answering questions. So this one here is a bit simpler than some of my others. The idea is to figure out what is the value of count when we reach the very end of this assert equals. So just to kind of walk through it, there is a get numbers, which is an iterator method. You'll note from the IEnumerable return and the yield return statements. But inside of get numbers, you'll note that count is incremented in 3 different places just before each of the yield returns. So then we walk through, we do an assert true, calling the link any method. We then do a first even number, where we find the first number, modulus 2 equals 0. We assert that it's 2. We then take and skip 1 and find the single element that is equal to 2. And then we find the last two numbers and we assert that they are 2 and 3. And at least from here, just proof is in the pudding. This unit test passes from here. So the question then is, what value should get put here to make this assert equals work? What is the expected addition, or how many times is count going to be incremented? So if anyone wants to avoid spoilers, got about 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. So correct answer is 9. And this kind of boils down to thinking through how the iterators work. So with these iterator methods, and if you're running like writer or resharper, they'll actually flag this call to first here. And specifically the warning that they pop up is something like multiple enumerations of IEnumerable or something to that effect. I don't remember the exact text of it. So if you're running one of those IDs, they'll spoil the ending and give you a hint. There was one more +3. Yeah, you were very close on there. So the any does a single one because it's going to call move next on the enumerable. And as long as the move next returns true, any immediately returns. So it's only ever going to call move next once. Because the thing to remember is IEnumerables have a get enumerator, and this is what's actually being acted on for these various methods, which an enumerator has 3 key things: move next, which says give me the next item in the iteration; reset, go back to the beginning; and then give me the current item. Those combinations are what are driving these counts. So that functionally, by putting a count ++ before each of the yield returns, it's effectively counting the number of calls to the enumerator's move next call. So any is 1. First is going to stop as soon as it hits the first item. So it's going to do count 1, yield return, count 1 more time, yield return 2. So that adds 2 more to the mix. The skip is actually utterly meaningless. It does nothing here but add confusion. Because the idea with the single is the first item is 1, so there's no way for this to be problematic. Now, if this were a 2, then the skip would become relevant. But single, unlike first, throws an exception if there's more than one item that matches the predicate here. And in order to know if there's more than one item, it has to keep iterating all the way to the end until it either finds a second item to throw an exception on, or it makes it to the end. So this one's going to end up iterating all the way down for 3 more, and then take last, obviously, in order to get the last items in the enumeration, it has to get all the way to the last item in order to know how many are there. So 1 + 2 + 3 + 3 equals 9. Proof is once again in the pudding. Run the test. And test passes. So there's the solution. A somewhat simpler one than some of the others, but it was one that tripped up a couple developers earlier this week. The situation wasn't quite this simple, but it was functionally. Again, I usually take real things that I see tripping up a developer, and I try to take the principle behind them and rewrite them into a brain teaser just for fun. What was my change? Don't know what the change is. So that change goes away, and I will push the solution branch. So that one is now out in the brain teasers repo. So as always, I just keep adding to it. So, and then I need to go record some videos for a lot of them, because some of them have YouTube links at the top, some of them don't. And so I need to add more. Okay, with that, now I'm signing off. So, happy coding. See everyone next time.